Artificial intelligence is going to change the world. It's going to change every single part of your life. Everything is about to change. Your job, society, culture, all of it. And the left knows that. Big government institutions know that. The Davos crowd, like Klaus Schwab, and big banks and financial institutions, BlackRock and Wall Street firms, they all know this. They know the world is about to fundamentally change because they know something that you don't. And that is not only that artificial intelligence is going to transform the economy and transform our way of life, but also that the people designing the artificial intelligence, the people designing the technologies of the future, well, they're in the Davos Club. They're allied with the left. They're all part of the same group of people. In the same way that if the left could go back into time and design the internet so that the internet had all of these rules built into it about what you could say and what you could promote and what kinds of products you can sell and what your social media companies would look like. Would the left go back in time and do that? Of course they would. Everyone who's a pro-liberty person or even just someone who's sort of common sense in the middle knows that the left has been trying to stuff the internet genie back into the bottle ever since the internet came out. They've been trying really hard to control what people can say and do on the internet. If they could go back into time and design that technology right from the very start so that it accomplished everything that they wanted, would they do that? Would they make the internet full of course they would do that. Of course they would take control of it. Well, that's exactly what they're planning on doing with the next wave of technology. Artificial intelligence. It's such a huge topic. It is the topic of today's episode. My name is Justin Haskins. Before we get into that incredibly important issue, I would like to have a call to action. I want to give you a call to action. Please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, help me out. Subscribe to the channel. I've been involved in conservative media. I've been writing for FoxNews.com. I've been on television hundreds of times and radio and written New York Times bestselling books, but I've never had my own YouTube channel. If you could please help out by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, signing up for alerts on the channel if you're watching on YouTube. All of these things, leaving comments, they're going to help break through the big tech algorithms that hold back pro-liberty content like the content that I produce on this channel all the time. So please help me out by subscribing to the channel. Don't be a communist. Don't be a social. Only socialists and communists don't subscribe to the channel. So subscribe to the channel. It's really going to help me out a lot, and it's going to help other people see the content. Okay. I've got a presentation for you today. Normally on the channel, I don't do full-blown presentations on topics, but I've got a big speech coming up at the end of this week. I'm going to be heading off to an undisclosed location where I'm going to be meeting hundreds of policymakers and influential figures, and I'm going to be presenting. My goal is not to lobby for specific legislation or anything like that. I just want to tell people what's really going on with artificial intelligence and with artificial intelligence and ESG and social credit scores and emerging technologies. And so I'm going to be there with Donald Kendall, a good friend of mine and colleague over at the Heartland Institute. You may know Donald from Stopping Socialism TV, where he and I have done a lot of work together. And he and I have worked on several books with Glenn Beck, including Dark Future, the book that Glenn and I put together earlier in 2023. It came out in July. And that book deals with emerging technologies. And Donald was a huge part of that. So he and I are going to be presenting in an undisclosed location at the end of the week, in front of lots of policymakers, talk about this issue. But I wanted you to, I don't want you, the viewer, to be left in the dark about this. So I wanted to put this video together to give you a lot of the information, almost all of the information that we're going to be giving to the policymakers. So you can see the kinds of things that the most influential people in the country are going to soon be seeing. You're going to be in the know. That's what this channel is all about. It's about helping you find out about the issues that they're only talking about behind closed doors. I've been fortunate enough to be in a lot of those meetings, and I want people to have access to this information because it's so incredibly important. I don't know how long this is going to take, but hopefully the video is not going to be too long. But the topics are big. And so I'm going to try to work my way through them as quickly and succinctly as possible. If you have any questions or concerns, or you don't think I covered a topic well enough, leave a comment in the video and I will try to address it maybe in a subsequent video if there's enough interest in doing so. All right, so let me pull up the presentation. We're going to do it through a PowerPoint presentation, which is not something that I normally do on the channel again, but I think it's going to be really helpful if we do this. All right, so let's do that, and then we are going to pull up the presentation. Okay, so we'll skip ahead here. All right, so first let's just start off with what artificial intelligence is. What is artificial intelligence? We're going to give this is sort of a very brief understanding of what it is. If you are really interested in these topics, again, you can read about them more in Dark Future. There's a lot of people who are experts on AI. I'm not an expert on AI per se. I'm an expert on what AI is going to be used for in the future. But a general working understanding for the purposes of this presentation of what artificial intelligence is that it involves machines that are capable of thinking to various degrees like a human being. All right. IBM noted this is how they described artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence leverages computers and machines to mimic the problem-solving and decision-making capabilities of the human mind. So it's using machines to make decisions and sort of think like a human being. That's the idea. There are three broad categories of AI. There's artificial narrow intelligence, ANI. There's artificial general intelligence, AGI. And there's artificial superintelligence. For the purposes of this, you don't need to know all the details about these different things, but generally, artificial narrow intelligence is the AI that's being used today, okay? General intelligence and superintelligence have not been developed yet. There are some people who say that general intelligence has been developed, but that it's sort of behind closed doors. But narrow intelligence is usually what we think of when we think of artificial intelligence. So artificial narrow intelligence, generally speaking, means that you have an AI program or an AI machine that has a narrow function or range of functions, and that in many cases, AI is capable of doing that function or range of functions much better than a human being can do it. So a machine that can solve complex mathematical equations, for example, that might be an AI, or Google Maps, where it can give you, the driver, the best route to get to a location. That's a form of artificial narrow intelligence. Google Maps is really good at telling you how to get from point A to point B, but it's really bad about giving you suggestions about where to send your kid for college, right? That's not what it's meant to do. Now, there are other AI programs that can do that, but that's basically what narrow intelligence is, okay? Artificial general intelligence is when AI reaches the ability that it can perform many different functions up to the level of a human. So a human cannot do as good of a job in a narrow range of functions like ANI can, like narrow intelligence can, right? So we're not as good at doing mathematics as an artificial intelligence program, or navigating routes like Google Maps or Apple or something. Like we're not as good at those narrow range of functions, but we can do lots of things pretty well. And they cover a whole wide range of topics and issues and problems, right? Well, artificial general intelligence is when AI reaches the point where it can do many different things all sort of at the same time, or move from one topic to another topic very quickly or seamlessly at a level that is basically human or slightly below human or maybe slightly above human. Artificial superintelligence is artificial general intelligence, except now AI has far surpassed a human's capability in a range of areas. Okay, so artificial intelligence is going to become a massive part of the economy. Virtually every expert in the world believes this. This is not some sort of fringe theory. AI is going to be a part of every element of the economy. Every industry is going to be touched by this. Every part of your life is going to be touched by this. Here we've got several different studies. This is just talking about job displacement, meaning the number of jobs that are going to be human-filled jobs that are going to be replaced by AI. That doesn't mean that there won't be other jobs that pop up, but we're just talking about job displacement here. Displacement. I think that this shows pretty clearly the kind of seismic changes that we're about to see related to AI. The McKinsey Global Institute estimates between 400 million and 800 million individuals could be displaced by automation and need to find new jobs by 2030. That's around the world, based on their midpoint and earliest, that is the most rapid automation adoption scenarios. PwC, that's PricewaterhouseCoopers, they say that by the mid-2030s, 1 in 3 jobs worldwide could be at risk of automation, could be at risk of loss due to automation and advancements in robotics and AI. The World Economic Forum, one of my favorite organizations in the whole world, of course, not really, they estimate that by 2025, so just in a few years or a couple years, 85 million jobs may be displaced by AI, automation, etc. All right, so there's just no doubt about it. You're talking tens of millions of jobs in the near future, hundreds of millions of jobs, eventually more than 1 billion jobs potentially could be displaced. So rapid changes. Don't just think about the jobs that would be displaced from this. Think about what society looks like when AI is running all sorts of different parts of our culture, of our world, of our economies. It's not just the jobs you have to think about. It's about the impact that AI is going to have. So a lot of people think that AI only is going to affect certain kinds of industries. And it's true that it will likely impact some industries more than other industries and some parts of life more than others. But the truth is that AI is going to impact areas that most people never think about, okay? Or that it's not the first thing that comes to mind. Law, medicine, banking, Wall Street, human resources departments, among others, are going to be some of the most heavily impacted. So we're not just talking about restaurant workers being displaced by machines that can cook, hamburgers and put salads together, and kiosks and customer service kiosks and things like that. We're not even just talking about self-driving cars and that sort of thing, which a lot of people have a tendency to talk about, with truck drivers losing their jobs and other delivery services. But law, medicine, banking, Wall Street, HR, etc., they're also going to be at great risk. This is a really incredible thing. This quote comes from Kevin Roose, who's he, at the time he wrote the book, at least, he was working for the New York Times. He wrote a book called Future Proof. And in that book, he noted that there was a 2018 study that found 20 top U.S. corporate lawyers. They put 20 top U.S. corporate lawyers against an algorithm developed by an AI startup called Law Geeks. Their task was to spot legal issues in 5 non-disclosure agreements, a staple of basic contract law. So this is an AI versus top corporate lawyers. What they found was that the algorithm crushed the lawyers with an average 94% accuracy rate compared to the average human accuracy rate of 85%. So not even a lawyer is going to be safe from AI. AI is already able to do certain functions that lawyers do at a better, more accurate, at a better pace and more accurately than those lawyers can. Not even artists will be safe. As you'll see here, these images were all produced in seconds using artificial intelligence. We actually did this. We put this together for our presentation. All of these images were not created by humans, not created by graphic designers. They were created by artificial intelligence almost instantaneously. And because the artificial intelligence program that we used, called DALL-E, because this program allows for users to create the art and then use it for whatever purpose they want, we could use these images for anything we want. And we don't have to pay royalties to DALL-E in order to do that. So think about how that's going to change graphic design and artists and a whole bunch of fields that you normally wouldn't necessarily think about when you're thinking about artificial intelligence taking people's jobs and changing the way we behave in society, changing the way we think about culture. Okay, so AI is going to change the world. We can all sort of agree that AI is going to have a massive impact. The experts generally agree AI is going to have a massive impact. Hundreds of millions of jobs are going to be displaced. Every part of our culture and society is going to be displaced. Davos, Joe Biden, the left, they know this. They know that those changes are going to happen. They know they're going to happen. And they are seeking to design artificial intelligence in such a way that they can control it so that the outcome that they get is in line with their values. If they can control AI, they can control society. So what I want to do here is show you, prove to you that this is exactly what's going on. This is a video clip from Vice President Kamala Harris. She's my go-to person, America's AI expert, you might say. As ludicrous as that is, she actually is the AI czar for the White House. That's not made up. It's not a joke. She really has been put in charge of artificial intelligence. Here's what she has to say. And take a look at this video clip. It's really funny, but it's also really important. Maybe one of the most important quotes that have ever been said about artificial intelligence, given her position and given where things are headed on this issue. So just take a listen to this.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
So this is so important. Let's take a look at the quote that Kamala Harris had. Now, the video clip of Kamala Harris, if you're watching the video version of this, hopefully you were able to hear the clip. Essentially what she said, and this was the part of the beginning part of her quote, was that AI is 2 letters. And then she sort of awkwardly tries to explain what artificial intelligence is. And everybody kind of mocked her for that, and rightfully so. Kamala Harris is essentially a joke. I think we can all agree on that. But she said some really important things that I think we need to pay close attention to, because it revealed a lot about what the Biden administration is trying to do. So this is what Kamala Harris said. She said, "I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is a kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately, what is it? It's about machine learning." Okay. And so the machine is taught. Now think about this. The machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process. Okay, so to reduce it down to its most simple point, this is part of the issue that we have here, is thinking about what is going into a decision and then whether that decision is actually legitimate and reflective of the needs and the life experiences of all the people. So what she's saying is, if you can control what information is going into the machine, if you can control what AI is being trained on, what AI is learning from, what AI is using to make decisions, well, then you can manipulate the result to get what you want, to transform society and the economy in the way that they think is most important. That's what Kamala Harris is saying here. This is absolutely stunning that she's openly admitting this. She's butchering it in the most incredible way, which is why so many people didn't catch this part of the quote. But it is incredibly vital that we understand what Kamala Harris is saying here. We should manipulate AI to get the results that we want. That's not mathematics. That's ideology. That's politics. That's propaganda. And that's what the Biden administration is planning on doing. So let's go a step further. AI Bill of Rights. So this isn't just something that the Biden administration is talking about. They've actually taken steps in order to start moving in the direction of manipulating artificial intelligence so that it gives results, produces a new society, a new world, a new economy that's in line with what the left wants. Part of this is the AI Bill of Rights. This was produced in October 2022. This was rolled out. The White House released an AI Bill of Rights, which includes a section called Algorithmic Discrimination Protections. That section reads, algorithmic discrimination occurs when automated systems contribute to unjustified different treatments or impacts disfavoring people based on their race and other factors. So in other words, if AI isn't producing equitable outcomes, okay, so we're not saying AI should be designed to be racist. That's not obviously what they're talking about. They're talking about the outcomes. They're saying if AI isn't producing equitable outcomes, then it's guilty of discrimination. Well, it's impossible to have equitable outcomes in a truly fair AI system, right? It's not possible, because how could it produce that just based on existing data? It can only produce an equitable outcome if it's being designed and manipulated from the start to produce that equitable outcome. It has to be rigged. So among other things, the White House wants AI designers to use, quote, proactive equity assessments as part of the system design. Okay? So what it's saying is when they're designing the AI, they have to produce reports. They have to produce reports and assessments that show that the AI is actually moving toward equity. And equity, of course, is being defined from a left-wing perspective. We're not talking about equity of rights. We're talking about equity of outcomes. So again, rigging AI to get the results we want, just as Kamala Harris said before. The White House isn't the only one, because the White House is in all these public-private partnerships with Davos and Wall Street firms and banks and financial institutions. They're using the weight of these big financial institutions, just as they did with ESG and other things, to manipulate AI so that they can get the results that they want. This is the Great Reset strategy. All right. This is just being applied to artificial intelligence. Now, this is just one example of this. There are many, many examples of Wall Street firms and others talking about this. Institutional Shareholder Services, ISS, is one of two massive advisory firms used by the biggest institutional investors. Okay, so it's used for proxy voting and things like that. It has a massive influence in corporate boardrooms, including in corporate boardrooms where they're designing AI, like say Microsoft or something. The reason is because they control a lot of shareholder votes. They're the ones that are helping people decide how they should vote in shareholder proposals and things like that. So on June 27, 2023, ISS experts published a report about AI and discrimination. And in the report, there were numerous just absolutely stunning quotes, but one of my favorites is they said, a primary way to improve AI model fairness, and by fairness, they mean equitable outcomes or more equitable outcomes or social engineering. They make that very clear in the article, is the specification of fairness-aware algorithms. This is a quote. This means that in addition to other objectives, such as predicting high job performance, user engagement, or other successful outcomes, the model also factors in fairness metrics, such as gender balance. These constraints encourage predictions that are equitable across certain protected attributes, thereby mitigating discrimination. See how they're defining discrimination as producing an AI that produces an unequitable outcome. That, of course, is not what discrimination means. They're redefining it. But they're flat out saying here, ISS, one of the most powerful forces on Wall Street, we should rig AI to give us the results that we want. And there are many other quotes from that same report that talk about this, various aspects of this same issue. More views from the Biden administration. There are plenty of other things that I could quote. I think this is a really interesting one. This comes from a 2021 speech by Lael Brainard. That's a woman. Biden's director of the National Economic Council and a former member of the Fed's Board of Governors. Okay, so this is an incredibly powerful person within the Biden administration and previously at the Fed. In this 2021 speech, she laments that AI could cause racial equity gaps to increase. And then she says this. She's talking a lot about AI in banking and financial institutions and things. It is our collective responsibility to, quote, build appropriate guardrails and protections against racial bias, including that we, quote, ensure that AI is designed to promote equitable outcomes. So again, we need to make AI produce the equitable outcomes that we want. It's not enough for it to just have the right outcomes, the fairest outcomes, the outcomes based on mathematics and data and predictive analytics. No, we have to produce outcomes that are fair and equitable and in line with social justice goals. More proof that there's this public-private partnership thing going on with the left, with Davos and ESG elites, and with the people designing artificial intelligence. This is the World Economic Forum's AI Governance Alliance. The WEF defines it like this. And the WEF is the champions of the Great Reset. They're the ones that created the Great Reset slogan. All right. The World Economic Forum launches the AI Governance Alliance, uniting industry leaders, governments, academic institutions, and civil society organizations to champion responsible global design and release of transparent and inclusive AI systems. Together, we are shaping the future of AI governance, fostering innovation, and ensuring that the potential of AI is harnessed for the betterment of society while upholding ethical considerations and inclusivity at every step. So what does it say here? It's saying champion responsible global design and release of transparent and inclusive AI systems. So in other words, making sure that AI fits our values. Who is the WEF working with? Just some sort of fringe left-wing groups? Nope. The biggest players in the AI space, period. Here are some of them. They're listed here on the screen. Microsoft, Meta, that's Facebook, Google, IBM, Qualcomm, Salesforce, DeepLearning.ai, Oxford, Amazon, Adobe, MIT, Duke, Sony, UPenn, Hewlett-Packard, Lenovo, Hitachi, etc. Okay? Massive, massive institution. And there were more too. These aren't the only institutions working with the World Economic Forum on their AI Governance Alliance. So AI is being designed to promote Davos values. It's being designed to promote left-wing and progressive values. That's what's happening with this. There's just no doubt about it whatsoever. There's so much evidence. And I could have shown a lot more evidence as well. But I think this proves the point, right? AI is being designed so that it's rigged to produce the result that the left wants. And so we need to be really careful, all right? This isn't just theoretical. AI is being used right now in the world today to advance left-wing, progressive, and ESG goals, okay? AI, for example, is used widely in banking, all right? Among other things, banks use AI for speaking with customers, for fraud detection systems, predictive analytics, and most important of all, credit risk management and lending decisions. Many times when you apply for a loan online or something like that, or even if you go into an office, they're using AI to determine whether or not they should give you a loan. It's part of the equation, or they just do whatever the AI tells them to do, essentially. But it's being widely used in this way. We already know that at least some forms of bias have seeped into these systems because insider experts at banking institutions have acknowledged that this is exactly what's going on. All right? And we also know that banks have agreed to embed at least some ESG standards into their entire business models, including their credit risk systems and lending, especially in issues related to climate change. They've already made that promise openly. You don't have to speculate that this is what they're going to do. They've said this is what they're going to do. So I want to give you one example of this. Again, there are many examples I could choose from. This comes from a Harvard Business Review article that's published in 2020 titled, AI Can Make Bank Loans More Fair. By fair, they mean equitable outcomes. In this article, business data consultant Cyan Townsend acknowledged that she's helped financial services companies, quote, reverse past discrimination by, quote, building AI-driven systems designed to encourage less historic accuracy, but greater equity. This is exactly what I'm saying. This is exactly what I've been saying throughout this presentation. There it is in our own words. Less historic accuracy. We're going to encourage less historic accuracy. So, meaning mathematically, we're not producing the best result, the most accurate result, but it's going to produce, quote, greater equity. And then she says that means training and testing AI systems not merely on the loans or mortgages issued in the past, she wrote later on, but instead on how the money should have been lent in a more equitable world. So in other words, banks should go back, revise their data sets, and then use that data to train AI so that it gives them results that are more in line with social justice goals. This is stunning. Again, another admittance, we're rigging the system so that it gives us the results that we want. And we're working with Davos elites and the Biden administration and all these other people to make sure that it happens. AI in criminal justice. This is another area. Okay. AI and algorithms are used throughout the criminal justice system now in many states across the country to help them with pretrial decisions like issuing bail and things like that, as well as sentencing decisions and other things. Mapping Pretrial Justice is a website created by the Movement Alliance Project and Media Justice. It is opposed to AI being used in these systems because it thinks that it produces unequitable outcomes and disfavors certain racial minorities and things like that. So this is coming from a left-wing group that doesn't like it, not from some right-wing group. It says on its website that most states now use at least one risk assessment algorithm tool, including various forms of artificial intelligence, to, quote, help judges and magistrates decide everything from bail and pretrial release or supervision to sentencing and gravity of parole or probation supervision. It's important to keep in mind that the jurisdictions that are using this are not required to listen to whatever the algorithm is telling them to do. But it is being used as one of the guiding, as a tool to help judges and courts make decisions about how they're going to treat people who come before them. Mapping Pretrial Injustice further explains, RATs, those are the algorithms, are based on aggregate data. Designers create RATs by analyzing a data set, which is often a large sample of historic information about a group of people, and finding factors consistent with the results they are trying to predict. This means that an RAT's outcome tries to predict what someone with certain characteristics, such as where someone is from, how many times they were arrested or convicted, or how old they are, might do. They are not individualized for each person. So the whole point of the algorithm is we don't want to treat people as individual people. We want to lump them into groups and then treat them based on what group they fall into. Now, sometimes the left doesn't like that. And sometimes they love it. It just depends on how groups are being treated using these algorithms. So how widespread is this? This is a map that comes from Mapping Pretrial Injustice, and it shows the jurisdictions that are using at least one kind of algorithm in the tool. So the gray states are areas that are pending or considering a tool. The others are using one of several different really popular tools. And you can see the different jurisdictions. In many states, only some jurisdictions have tools, but not all or even most. So in Alaska, Arizona, California, Hawaii, Utah, Nevada, Minnesota, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, and Rhode Island, most jurisdictions use at least one risk assessment tool. You can see that from the map here. So can we trust AI in criminal justice? This is a good thing. Maybe AI can be used in this way. Well, there's reasons to think that you shouldn't. There are really good reasons to think that you shouldn't. Research shows that judges do not adhere to these recommendations at equal rates for all demographic groups. For example, at least one study showed that judges in districts that use risk assessment tools are on average more lenient with female defendants than they are with males. So in other words, when the artificial intelligence recommends giving a female defendant a tougher sentence, they typically ignore it. But when a male defendant comes in front of them, they typically listen to it. Okay. So they pick and choose when they want to listen to these algorithms. They're not doing it equally or fairly. Further, researchers studying more than 56,000 cases in Virginia found, quote, AI recommendations significantly increase the probability of offering alternative punishments, lower the probability of incarceration, and shorten the length of imprisonment. So when algorithms are being followed, courts typically don't put defendants in jail at the same rate as when they're not using these algorithms. Some of the most popular risk assessment tools have been developed by organizations that espouse left-wing values or receive funding from left-wing special interests. That's another reason why we shouldn't necessarily trust this. So, for example, the widely used public safety assessment tool was created by the Laura and John Arnold Foundation in 2013. They're now called Arnold Ventures. Arnold Ventures has a long track record of funding liberal organizations and causes, including the Center for American Progress, Environmental Defense Action Fund, and Planned Parenthood, among many others. So these are the people designing many of these AI tools that we're using to determine how defendants are being treated by courts. Okay, so what can lawmakers do about this? What can lawmakers do to fix these problems? And there's a whole bunch of other problems that get really wild and really crazy when you start going down the AI rabbit hole. But what about just the issue of AI being controlled and manipulated by institutions? How do we deal with that if you're a lawmaker? Well, there are many different potential solutions, but I think some of the easiest things that lawmakers could do that would have an impact is that, one, they could pass bills that ban state and local agencies from using AI systems that have been altered to promote an ideological agenda or that rely on manipulated data sets. So if the government's going to use AI, it should be an AI system that's based on mathematics, not on social justice causes or ideology or something else. No social engineering for AI. State policymakers, this is number 2, could enact new rules or revise existing processes to ensure that financial institutions, especially banks and insurance companies, are not embedding AI systems with ESG scoring metrics to unjustly favor some customers over others. So if you're a bank or financial institution, you shouldn't be allowed to use AI to discriminate against certain groups of people and then hide behind the AI and say, well, we're just doing what AI tells us. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. Some of that is actually already illegal, depending on what state you're in and what kind of discrimination you're talking about. But I don't know that regulators are even really paying attention to what banks are doing with their AI systems. So that's a really easy win. Lawmakers could say to banks, look, if you're going to use AI, either you shouldn't use AI, or if you're going to use AI, it's got to be based on math. It can't be promoting an ideological agenda. It's got to be based on math and financial considerations only. A third thing that lawmakers could do is they could ban state and local criminal justice systems from using AI to help with sentencing decisions. There's really no reason why courts can't make these decisions on their own. They don't need AI to make their decisions for them. And if you're going to use, if criminal justice systems are going to use AI, then it should be unbiased AI. It shouldn't be AI with an ideological agenda. And states need to make sure that that's what's going on before they put these systems into place. And now that they are in place, they need to review them regularly to make sure that the AI systems haven't been changed. A fourth initiative that I think would be very useful is AI could be banned from government-run schools or severely limited. Until AI designers pledge that they will not use AI to advance left-wing ideological goals, as well as remove all existing biases that might exist, it makes little sense to include AI in classrooms. The reason we have this in here is because AI is being widely considered for a variety of different educational uses. That's something that the Davos crowd really likes, the World Economic Forum. There's education department initiatives and things like that to try to help enhance the use of AI. AI can be effective for helping kids learn learn especially complex issues and help them work through problems methodically and figure out what students are good at and what they're bad at. AI can be useful in that way, but AI cannot be promoting an ideological agenda if we're going to bring them into the classrooms. And too many of the AI systems are, and too many of the big tech institutions that are using AI have already admitted that that's exactly what they're going to do with their AI systems. So we just can't trust it to be involved in our children's education. And then number 5, at the very least, lawmakers could mandate a careful review of existing artificial intelligence and algorithmic models used in their state, local, and legal systems to ensure that they're being utilized fairly and justly. That includes in every aspect of the public sector. How is AI being used? What are the algorithms that are underlining AI? Are they being embedded with social justice causes, etc.? And I think at the very least that needs to be reviewed so that the voters, for the public, so that media institutions and policymakers know what the heck is going on, because right now they don't know what's going on. Okay, so there's more to the presentation that we're going to give when we meet, but at the end of the week. But I think for now, that's a good place to kind of start wrapping things up for the purposes of the channel, the public. Look, the biggest takeaway here is that AI is transforming our world. It's going to be transforming our world even more. We use AI every day. Every time you open up your phone, you're using artificial intelligence. Almost every time you go on the internet, you're using artificial intelligence. Every time you search something in a search engine, you're using artificial intelligence. The things you see on social media are shaped by artificial intelligence algorithms. Every time you go on Instagram, every time you go on Pinterest, anytime you go on any of these different social media services or apps or things like that, you are using artificial intelligence. Everybody uses artificial intelligence every single day. And it's a really powerful tool. AI can probably cure cancer in the future. It's probably going to create the most abundant lifestyle that the world has ever known. It's going to solve logistical problems unlike any technology that has ever existed. AI is amazing and wonderful, and we should be incredibly grateful that AI is being developed and that we're living in the world where AI is being developed. But AI also poses significant threats to freedom, significant dangers to our society. And if we don't address those things right up front, right now, we're going to be living in a world controlled not by unbiased AI, but by a social justice woke version of AI. And one day you're going to wake up and you're not going to understand why the world looks the way it is. And it's going to be because AI is behind many of the systems that you use every single day. And you don't know that AI is being designed or already has been designed to produce outcomes that you don't understand. So you'll go to a bank to get a loan and you'll be denied because you want to buy a gasoline-powered car, and you won't even understand that that's why you're being denied. And the person at the bank may not even know that's why you're being denied. But there's some algorithm that they're using, some AI system that has been specifically created so that it phases out fossil fuel powered cars over time, and you just happen to be one of the people that it's denying. Or maybe an AI system has scanned your social media feeds and sees that you are a Trump voter. And it's been designed to screen out a certain percentage of Trump voters. And maybe you're one of those people that gets screened out. And you're not even going to know it. You're not even going to know why. It's going to happen, and it's just not going to make sense to you. That's the danger of this technology. It's going to transform the world, and most people won't even understand why it's being transformed. They'll just know the world is different. It's the same problem that we saw with ESG and big corporations. It's now just going to be expanded significantly. As big as the ESG problem is, this is bigger because it's ESG on steroids. It's the Terminator version of ESG. Okay? And if we don't address it right now, the future is going to be fundamentally different and not in a good way. Okay, now that I've painted this incredibly dark future for you, let's wrap things up and hope that things go well at the meeting that I have with policymakers at the end of the week. I am hopeful, actually, as grim as all of this has sounded, I am actually hopeful that people are starting to take note, at least policymakers, influential people in academia, people in think tanks who have a pro-liberty perspective. They are understanding the dangers and threats here at a level that is surpasses the understanding they had just months ago. And I think presentations like the one that I'm about to give is going to help move the ball forward at least a little bit. And so I've seen a lot of incredible things happen in the past, things that I didn't think were going to happen on ESG and the Great Reset and other Davos initiatives. I think that we have a really good shot here at having a significant impact on this issue as well. But it's going to take a lot of hard work, and it's frankly probably going to take some miraculous work from God because this is what we're up against is huge, absolutely huge. All right. That's all I got for today. Thank you for watching the show, listening to the show. If you are interested in listening to the podcast version of it, you should be able to get the podcast version on Apple Podcasts now. It's on Spotify and a whole bunch of other places. So check that out if you want to listen to just the audio. Of course, you can always find the show on YouTube. And if you want to follow me on social media and see the other work that I'm doing, the columns I'm writing and other things, not just the videos, you can find me at Justin T. Haskins on basically all the big social media platforms. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, please, 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 please stay away from the AI, at least for now, a little bit, and stay free.